I find that there's a lot of themes in my work, but really it always starts with what would be cool, right? What would be fun to see? And I think starting from that point at least gives you a way for most people to get into your books or movies or anything. And I think it's something that the most successful films and the most successful TV shows and all that have taken to heart, that you need the hook without being, corny or callous about it,
Yeah.
but you need something that people can recognize, and then you can really tell them a story once they're in the door, right? Hi, I'm Adriano Ariganello from Pesto Comics. I'm the creator of From Parts Unknown, Naked Kaiju Woman, and all kinds of other books, including Snip, which you can find on Kickstarter now. And you can find me online anywhere at Pesto Comics. Very easy to find at Pesto Comics, any social media that you're expecting to find people. And you're watching and listening to Two Geeks Talking.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Two Geeks Talking is an entertainment industry interview show where we interview the creative people from the comic, film, TV, movie, and video game industries. And of course, I'm your host, Kurt Sasso. We're joined today by a returning guest. He is blowing up on social media, not only for his amazing short reels about marketing and comics marketing specifically, but also the promotion of his amazing books like From Parts Unknown, as well as Naked Kaiju Woman, and so many others that I'm sure we'll dive in here today once more around. But this is more of a dive on comics marketing and self-promotion, and I think a lot of people don't actively do that these days. So who's our guest today? Our guest today is, of course, none other than Adriano Ariganello, creator of From Parts Unknown and many more. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing very well. I thank you for having me back. I really appreciate it.
Well, no, I always love having you back because, us Canadians have to stick together. So it
Yeah,
is,
totally.
especially when it comes to comics here, because you've been blowing up on social media. You've been doing so well with your overall content. I've loved your amazing short reels, and you are just nailing them out one after another after another. And it's just so much value that I'm surprised how this came about. Like, we got to dive into this here. But my first question, I'm gushing too much here, but my first question,
I appreciate it. Keep going.
no one has a big head here, right?
Yeah.
uh, when someone asks, what do you actually do? How do you explain being a creator, a publisher, and a business builder from behind Parts Unknown and your other amazing books?
I think that's a key thing, right? It's not just the writing, it's not just the publishing or the marketing. It's you have to wear many hats. You have to do all of it, and that's something I enjoy quite a bit, which is why I tend to be out there so much and willing to sell all my books and really push everything the way I do. But I know a lot of folks they'll I talk to people at shows and just some colleagues and that, and everybody wants to just do one piece, right? They just want to I just want to write. I want to write. I want to hand it to somebody else and let them carry the ball. And that's just not the reality of any of it today. Like, even if you're working with a publisher, you're still expected to kind of carry a lot of the load, right? I take that challenge on. I like it. I'm a bit of a control freak in that way. So I was happy to control the whole thing and run with it. Yeah, it's definitely a situation where you're wearing many hats and you're kind of doing it all, and you got to be not just okay with it, you got to try to excel in it. Not an easy thing to take on.
I 100% agree. It's like self promotion is the hardest part about it. Like, you can make the product, you can nail it every time. You can have an amazing team around you, whether since you're the writer, but have an amazing artist with you. You could both be promoting it till the cows can come home, and you may only sell 5 books. How do you get yourself out there? How do you get yourself as a comic creator out there when everything is so accessible and almost too much when it comes to the choice and selections that everyone has?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing I learned early on is that as much as you feel like you're being annoying, as much as you feel like you are making too much noise or you are saying the same thing over and over again too much, you will be shocked how few people it gets through to. You think everyone's listening and everyone's getting sick of you saying the same thing over and over again, and chances are you're only getting through to a fraction of those people. Even the ones that say, like, yeah, I love what you're doing and I see everything that you're doing, doubtful that they see all of it. Yeah, be okay with being persistent or annoying, depending on which way you want to put it for yourself. But both are okay. It's okay. It's part of the job. You need to be constant and consistent and just be out there constantly telling people what's going on, what you're up to. And maybe you'll get out to a good portion of them, maybe half of them, maybe half of the people you're expecting to see. So it's a lot of work. Even the ones you do see may forget, so it's not a bad thing to remind them.
Because your feeds go by so quickly on social media, because if you're lucky to get 2% of your overall followers, that's a win, I think, in my book personally, especially from a marketing perspective. Hey, that's 2% I didn't have yesterday, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And with a lot of these social media, what do you call them? Tools, algorithms, all that.
Algorithm.
It's a lot of it's pay to play too,
Yeah.
right? So you can make as much content as you want, but you have to look at the reality of sometimes you got to do some advertising as well as just posts and things like that. So it's about attacking it from as many angles as you possibly can. It's not just about doing one thing over and over. I know you'll hear like, oh, pick a platform and stick with that. That's good to start. I also think that's not a bad idea so that you don't get overwhelmed. But when you're really trying to scale up and level up, you have to make sure you can find people where they're at, right? Not everybody uses Twitter. Not everybody's on TikTok. Very different markets. But if you want to talk to both of them, you have to find them, right? So,
The good thing about what you're doing here, because the last time you were on, which was 2 years ago, I had to look that up. You were talking about Parts Unknown issue one. You're talking about the series actually in that respect. You had an unsuccessful Kickstarter campaign, but this time around something's changed. Something's a little different. And I just happened to see it on one of your shorts, which was direct marketing. Talk to us about how that happened, how that occurred, and who are you with? Because distribution is a huge factor, especially for independent comic creators.
yeah, absolutely. So, I have the good fortune of working with Prana Publishers. They are my conduit to get to Lunar, Universal, and Diamond UK. So, as an independent, these distributors don't really work with independents any longer. Diamond used to, if you can show that you had the output and the capability to get books out to stores, Diamond would happily work with you. Now that Diamond has gone bankrupt, there are disparate amount of distributors that you got to work with, and not everybody uses the same one. If you talk about the shops even around here, so I've been going all around Ontario. So talking about those shorts I've been putting out, one of the ones that one series that I have that's been coming out is the Pesto Comics Roadshow. So that's me just going and knocking on doors of comic shops. I'm going to as many as I can drive to in Southern Ontario. At one point, I felt like it was an 80-20 split, Universal to Lunar, and now I'm getting closer to 50-50. So it just goes to show that there isn't one way to get to all the stores anymore. So that's where someone like Prana comes in. And they are the people that talk to all of these various distributors for you. So you give them the information, you give them the book, you say, this is the thing I am going to put out there, and they make sure that all the distributors are in line and they all get what they need. That said, they do that part. They're almost like an agent in that way. They make sure that it gets that final mile, but everything up until then is still on you. So you're still doing the printing, you're still doing all of the production, obviously, of the book, making the art, making sure all that gets done, the production design, lettering, all that kind of business. That's still very much on you. But when you're at that final piece, I have this printed book. How do I get it into stores? That's where Prana comes in. There's a little bit of a flip there because now you're dealing with FOCs and all that business, making sure that stores get their orders in before you go to print. You're not guessing, which is, the smart way to go about it. So you don't end up with dead stock in a garage somewhere. And you're dealing with much higher volumes than you were maybe on a Kickstarter campaign where, a few dozen extra isn't too big of a deal, but a few hundred extra could be a problem. So Prana does help manage all of that. It manages all of the more businessy ends of the distribution game, but also expands your reach like
Yeah.
quite a bit. Now you're a legitimate publisher. You are in the catalog. You can walk into a store and you're not selling them, a handful of copies. You're giving them an opportunity to get a long-lasting relationship with your publishing companies. Yeah, it's been pretty great.
Talk about then going to these local comic book stores around Ontario. You're more in the Toronto region type deal, which is cool because I've stopped by Silver Snail a long time ago. It's been forever, to be perfectly honest, and you've done a whole bunch of others as well too. What is it like as a comic book creator walking into a store like these and getting a feel of how the industry is currently, especially as a Canadian creator?
Yeah, I have to say, before I started, I always start kind of negative, right? I imagined I was going to walk in and I was going to get kind of the eye roll, being like, oh, sure, yeah, another one of you. Okay. But instead, it's been amazing. I've been getting incredible support, especially when you can say to them that I'm part of your regular orders. Like when you do your order on March 30th, which is the FOC, like I'm going to be one of the boxes you check off. And that makes them feel a lot more comfortable because, again, there's some, reputation behind it, some legitimacy that, oh, we're going through a distributor. It's not just you, trucking books to my door. Mind you, a lot of the shops are also very indie friendly anyway, and they would be happy to, throw your books on a spinner rack and do things like that. But now that you can actually say, like, this is a dependable release calendar that we're putting out, I can tell you that there's a book coming. Every month now, consistently until we're done the series, and then another series after that, another series after that. Like, we're just as legitimate as any big publisher in that way that you order something and you will get it, right? That has helped quite a bit just in terms of getting in the front door and getting the conversation started. And once you do talk to these local shops, they're huge support. Knowing that there's someone local, someone, a new upstart that is trying to, make some waves, they're more than happy to do their part to really push the books. You mentioned Silver Snail. That was a really big one. That day right away, put the poster up
Yeah.
right above the cash
Ooh.
and ordered a bunch of copies in front of me, which was incredible. So I'm actually making a stop there on Free Comic Book
Oh,
Day to
nice.
make a point of like a thank you for,
Yeah.
the big excitement and really supporting immediately. But yeah, it's really been a big deal just to see. Thought for sure I was going to get a lot of pushback, and instead it's been wholehearted like
Nice.
support. Whatever they can do to push the book, they're happy to do, and vice versa. I want to bring people to their stores, right?
I think if you're not in the scene and you think it's daunting to buy comic books, I think the free comic book day is that perfect entry point into not only just Marvel and DC, but hey, there are so many amazing, talented independent creators like yourself sitting at a table, having your books right there, and it's just like, hey, if you like such and such and such and such, it's like this may be for you. And compared to comic conventions, I think you need those in-store appearances to just make that personal connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And comic conventions are just so busy. It's so stressful in a way that although you can make some connections, and I have talked to a lot of great people at the shop, the shows I've been to locally, it's a very different experience when, you do a shop visit and you can relax and, it's just not hundreds and hundreds of people pushing you around and, oh, you have to make it to this panel and, there's always something that's pulling your attention away. Here it's like you get to relax and you get to chat with people and you get to let them flip through your books and all that. So I've done both. I've done a few stops at Wayside in Newmarket. They're a great shop slash bar, so that makes it an extra fun
Okay.
time. Omar is great, owner of the shop there. So I love going to Wayside. Yeah, I've done a couple stops and very different experience at a convention than doing it in a store. So I think if anything, I'll probably lean more to stores than conventions overall, just
Okay.
because the convention scene seems to be more about volume, more about just getting people in and out. And I think being able to sit and like chat with people and get people in the stores, really, that's the other thing. Me trying to sell some things to make table isn't going to be the main driver anymore. It's really about getting people in the shops. So if I can do that for a store, I think it's, a symbiotic relationship. It's going to help us both.
Yeah.
So probably better off doing that than, just trying to sell a few books just to make table for a weekend, right?
Yeah, for sure. And plus, it doesn't even really pay for your gas at that point.
Uh, can't even factor that in. You're just aiming for table at these conventions, and that's, what's the point? At this point, you're just making the convention money. So
Talk about your road series shorts. Going to these comic book stores as you're doing. Like it's catchy, it's quick, it's easy to watch. I love how you're just really kind of throwing it out there because you're highlighting local businesses, you're highlighting amazing comic book stores that maybe not a lot of people know about. How did that come about, and how many have you visited so far?
yeah, so I've visited about a dozen, and I have a dozen more on the schedule.
Okay.
I think this is something I'm going to keep doing as
Yeah.
long as I can. I have actually a couple visits in the U.S. planned for this weekend, depending when this airs. It may be past weekend, and you'll already know what I'm talking about. I'm going to keep doing it as much as I can because it's been a lot of fun. And yeah, it's not too much of a commitment in terms of time or anything because it's 30 seconds in and out most of the time. Not in terms of talking to the shop, but just the video. So if you're interested, like I'm not asking you to spend hours with me as I go through every book in a shop, but it's really just like, hey, I checked out this shop. shop. These people are really cool. This is my experience. Or sometimes, Silver Snail was an example. I have a history with that shop. So I talked about that, or Gotham Central and all that. I talk about all these shops and how they affected my life, being local ones. It's a neat way to kind of get out, do something a little different than, the usual video like I do here in the basement, because I got a lot of those too,
Yeah,
where
that's
it's just me, opining about whatever. So yeah, it's been great. It's definitely something I'll keep doing, but I'm really doing a serious push before the FOC of this first issue.
speaking of your basement and those shorts, because they are still very informative. I have to admit
Right on.
they are well put together here. As a fellow short creator, I understand completely what you're going for. I think you need more informative content like that, especially when it comes to the business side of making comics, because a lot of people just simply think, I'm a writer, I'm an artist, we're collaborating together, we make a book and we sell it at conventions and that's all we do. There's a lot more to it in the behind the scenes factor, and I'm glad you're bringing them to light in terms of your shorts here. Why did you feel that was an informative push for potential creators?
I think it was something that I was looking for when I was getting started. There were a couple people who were very generous with
Sure.
their information they were providing. I'm talking about a couple people. There was Matt Garvey's one that comes to mind right away. He has a YouTube channel that he's not updating anymore, but he's still putting out a lot of cool books. And Tyler James,
Yeah, of course.
yeah, right. He's got a huge program that helps creators, but like that's two people. I'm sure there's a lot more that I'm missing, but just the fact that there's not too many people out there that are really letting people know. And even in those cases, it was more crowdfunding focused. But I want to talk about the business as a whole, like not just this piece, this small crowdfunding piece, like what happens when the book is done, but what does it all look like, right? And I think just through sharing my experience and doing it, it might not be the same for everybody, but at least you get some insight into what's going on. One of my favorite books when I was in film school, so that's kind of my origin story, right? I was a film school kid, and the book that got me through was Rebel Without a Crew by Robert Rodriguez. And that was my guide to get through film school. And obviously, we did not have the same story at all, right? But it was that idea of seeing, oh, so he started with, an idea and he brought it up to a full career. And I always thought, well, how do I do the same thing in a modern age? It's through social media. So that this is me sharing my story in bits and pieces and chunks, in different ways through the newsletter, through shorts. Yeah, it's the same idea. This is me live telling you how it's all going and how I'm hopefully getting to this end goal of, the huge company that has all kinds of books out every month. But right now we'll start with one. We're at this point, so it's huge.
Which kind of leads into your Kickstarter campaigns, because and if I saw this correctly, and maybe it was my double vision happening or something along that line, but I thought I read something along the lines of you wanted to put together a week, not a weekly, but like a bi-monthly or a monthly Kickstarter campaigns for your entire catalog. Like, did I misread that?
No, you're right. You're right. So
I'm not smelling burnt toast or anything like that.
no, you're right. I could tell you the numbers right now because I just sent it to somebody I'm working with for the production design. And I was telling him I have 4 books that are currently being worked on. And when I say books, I mean series of books. So 4 series being worked on, and then 4 that are kind of just starting out and we're working it out with the artists. That's 8 series that I have that are planned or ready to go. In order to get these out to the world, I'm still relying on crowdfunding as the first stop. So that's your like early adopter, to use a tech term. That's your early adopter phase, where if you want the book before anybody's going to get it, if you want to see what it looks like, with some more like raw art in terms of the covers and that, I'm going a new way with the covers where we're just limiting the amount of text on it and just really showcasing art, exclusive covers, all that kind of business. If you want the special stuff, the crowdfunding is where it happens, and we're keeping that train rolling. So I'll have a campaign. It's going to end, and then a week or 2 later, I start the next one. We'll see if I can maintain that that level of release schedules, but I've done some things to make that happen. So I signed a contract with Gemini in the US to do all of my US distribution, which is 90% of my backers. Basically, the campaign ends, I get it printed, I take that box and it goes off to the US and they make sure it gets to all the backers, right? So third party logistics, 3PL, right? But that makes my life a lot easier, right? Once the book is done, I send it to printer sends it to the logistics. I'm kind of out of this, so I can just make sure that the campaigns are rolling. And then that feeds the direct market. So the goal now is to have a book out every month. Hopefully by the end of this year, we're at 2 books per month, right? And so one feeds the other. So it means a lot of work. It means a lot of campaigns coming. Yes, that's the goal.
So, how do you decide which idea gets your focus next when everything just feels so exciting this time around?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. So part of it is I love all the artists I work with, and I'm not going to say I have favorites, but
Oh, okay.
there are certain ones that work faster than others. I could say that. It's not, it doesn't mean anything negative or positive, but I can tell just based on how frequent I'm receiving pages from certain artists where they can land on my schedule. Not everyone's doing this full time. I know a couple of artists are, and a couple artists are doing this on the side. Life gets in the way in a lot of cases. And then I have other artists that are, doing stuff for bigger publishers, and I don't necessarily get first dibs on their time. So it's factoring all that in and figuring out, the scripts are written, here they are. When can you get this back to me? And
Sure.
figuring out a timeline based on that. And then also the Kickstarter campaigns as well, because that's a very
Yeah.
important part. I don't see any money until it hits the direct market, but I make sure the artists get paid. So right now, the crowdfunding recoups the artist
Yeah.
fees and all that, so that by the time it gets to the direct market, maybe we get to a profit at that point. Yeah, it's kind of managing the risk in these two different markets.
It's safe to say that you've been scaling up this business, well, probably since we last spoke. I think that's probably when you started really scaling up your business here. Is there a particular decision that you did early with Pesto Comics where you're just looking back saying, this is the path I need to be on, and I'm glad I took that first step?
Yeah, absolutely. This whole endeavor was a very, thought out, planned, meticulous thing. I didn't necessarily hit all the marks that I expected to hit right when I expected to hit them. I certainly had a plan of the crowdfunding doing, I did my first crowdfunded book in 2023, and that was almost like a feeler. I put it out there not expecting to make any money. It was really just a let's see if I can catch people's interest, and I'll try some things here and there. I always do a little bit of an experiment with everything that I launch. Even this latest campaign, it's my first one where I'm doing two issues at once. We're launching issue one and two at the same time. So I'm always trying something, I'm always experimenting, I'm always adjusting. And all of that in the hopes of some growth. Right now, I write every book that we do with Pesto Comics. When we're talking about 2028, 2029, the hope is to expand that to other writers and, friends of mine who have work that they'd love to see out there. And if there's ways that I can usher that and make it happen for them, I'd love to get there. But we're not doing that today.
Yeah.
It's managing risk in a way, and it's making sure that things can actually be seen through to the end. When I started all this, it was all about doing it one step at a time. Step one was, can I make a crowdfunded book and have it in people's hands successfully? The second one was, can I expand that out there? Can I get more people on board? The third one, I took a moonshot with an artist that I didn't think would work with me because they were doing stuff with bigger publishers. And it's Mattia Monaco, by the way, if you're curious.
Yeah.
Right? But getting Mattia to work with me, that was a moonshot and it worked. We have another project coming up soon, by the way. It was a lot of this step, next step, next step. And that continues, right? That continues now. Its next step is the direct marketing, getting one book out there and making sure that has some high orders and has some success and scaling and going with that while also doing all this crowdfunding and rapid schedule and all this business. So it's really just about trying to figure out how we can scale, but scale manageably without having everything crater on us.
Or burn yourself out.
Or burn myself out. Yeah, and that's I've faced burnout legitimately in the past with my corporate job, and it's not something I'm eager to go through again. So it's been something I've been carefully managing. So although I feel like I'm very busy at times or I have a lot going on, it's all done with that in mind. I still have to have a life. I still have to have time to relax and do this all in a manageable way so that it can keep going.
Because you're a film guy and you took the plunge into filmmaking as well too, but you found your joy in writing in comics, which I thank you for, by the way. So I appreciate your support in this wonderful medium that is comics here. What's one comic, film, or game that quietly shaped how you approach action, pacing, or world building?
Oh, that's a good one. Now I got Robert Rodriguez on the mind
I
because I
know.
brought up his book. Yeah. And again, that what drove me through film school, but it wasn't just that. It was, the 80s action
Mm,
basic characters and getting you through the plot, right?
yeah.
And some of them, like, a Die Hard that has been analyzed to death, is a great example of what you do when you take those tropes and then you add layers of depth to it, right? And that's what I really started to appreciate, that it's like, why do the majority of people enjoy these movies, right? Well, there's got to be a reason behind that. I think that's it. It's the familiar, and then you hide the message and you hide the layers in the familiar. That's really something I've tried to take into my own work is I got a book about pro wrestling and zombies, but what is it really about? or did I say zombies? I meant vampires,
Yeah.
but nonetheless, it's easy to mix them up. But yeah, it's pro wrestling and vampires, and you would think that's enough, but really, it's a story about brothers.
Mm.
It's about, a bond between two people that they work together, but they mean a lot more to each other than just that. And that's really what I'm hoping is getting through while you're getting all the kind of fun action of people, running into each other and that, stories about trust and what you're being told and what you're actually seeing and all that kind of business. And I find that there's a lot of themes in my work, but really it always starts with what would be cool, right? What would be fun to see? And I think starting from that point at least gives you a way for most people to get into your books or movies or anything. And I think it's something that the most successful films and the most successful TV shows and all that have taken to heart, that you need the hook without being, corny or callous about it,
Yeah.
but you need something that people can recognize, and then you can really tell them a story once they're in the door, right?
Well, speaking of recognition, if you take your entire series that you've created from Parts Unknown, and I'll let you list them based off of the question I'm going to ask here, link your comic to its movie counterpart. So Parts Unknown would be insert from Dusk Till Dawn. I'm thinking personally, but it could be something else. But that's the kind of correlation I'm looking for. What's the correlation between every single series you've created and its movie counterpart?
Yeah, that's a good one. I like From Dusk Till Dawn. That's an easy one to put together. Sometimes I make it so obvious that I get like a variant cover made with the movie that I was kind of
Okay.
referencing. Let's go backwards. So yeah, Crazy Latte thing called Love. That one's easy. It's a little bit of the book and the show You, the Netflix show about, somebody who takes a relationship that they have one view of it, but the reality is another. But really, if you want to dig even deeper, it's Dawson's Creek because that's
Mhm.
what Dawson's Creek's about too, right? It's the idealist who sees, the girl as what he imagines her to be, and then there's the realist who gets her in the end because he likes her for her. Anyways, that's a whole thing. Stay Cool was my spontaneous combustion book that I did with Raphael, who's doing Naked Kaiju Woman as well. Stay Cool is, oh man, I feel like it's like a Gene Hackman, one of those
Okay.
conspiracy thrillers. Like not the conversation, that's too heady for that, but it's that kind of idea. It's the, don't believe what you're being told,
Mm.
and then you kind of get sucked into this whole different world. This whole there's definitely a good reference there that I'm missing, but I can't think of it off the top. But there's a lot of good just. I see a Gene Hackman situation
Okay.
there. Well, I'll think of this tonight and I'll be like, oh, I should have said that. Yeah, the first book, Unlimited Udo, that's my office space. The person who has a job they absolutely hate. And not only do they just say, forget it, like happens in office space, but it's the opportunity to then kill your boss. And not just one of them, all of them, multiple clones of your boss. So that was kind of where that started. It was the doldrums of corporate life. Unsurprising, given where I had started. What else is there? There's Naked Kaiju Woman's easy. That one, it's in the title. It's the original cover is the Attack of the 50-Foot
Yeah.
Woman, but it's that mixed with just the culture of the 90s and 2000s and like shaming women for being
Mm.
women and all of that. And that's really the theme of that first book. Like, yeah, it's a big naked lady and she's fighting monsters, but really the book's about like, why is everybody more upset that she's naked than, your city's crumbling around you because they're fighting in this giant city? So that, that was kind of the idea with that book. And for that book in particular, we're jumping genres. Like every book is a different genre entirely. The second one, the cover is Pretty Woman. It's a little more subtle in terms of it's more the blocking that is Pretty Woman, but it's the cover of Pretty Woman. And it's that. It's a rom-com. It's your basic, the guy isn't who you thought he was. And then they break up, but they don't have the happily ever after in the end, so not quite a rom-com. And then my latest one, Snip, is we have a Back to the Future variant cover done by my buddy Roberto. It's kind of that. It's kind of like time travel. It's like, well, the what if you change this, what would happen to time? But it really diverts from that and gets into just questions about like existence and things like that overall, while having some wild action and stuff, of course, because that's the fun of it all. It's comics. It's got to look cool. It can't just be two people talking the whole time. I think I covered everything there. I think.
Well,
I hope.
unless you have something else coming down the pipe that you haven't completed yet.
Yeah, okay. Here, I'll give you an exclusive one. It's available in pre-launch, but I didn't really explain it much. So there's a book called Crimson Frontier that I'm doing with Daniel, the guy who's doing From Parts Unknown. So this one is space cowboy western thing. It takes place on Mars, but they are miners who are kind of abandoned when, the mining went bust on Mars, and they kind of left the people who couldn't leave there. And then while they're there, they get invaded by another planet altogether. So that is just my ode to westerns while still, leaning onto the sci-fi goofiness of it all. I'm a huge, Clint Eastwood. I grew up watching the spaghetti westerns and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly and all that stuff. And then Unforgiven. I've seen both the Clint Eastwood and the Japanese remake, which is incredible, by the way,
Okay.
if you've never seen it.
No, not yet. No.
Yeah, well worth watch. I saw that at TIFF. Yes, Unforgiven is like a must watch. The Searchers, 310 to Yuma. I'm going all over
Mm.
High Noon, all that stuff. But just I love westerns. It's a wonderful genre, and I always wanted to write one, but I didn't think I could write one just
Mm.
straight western. So
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? Put it on Mars. Put it on Mars, and Daniel's the right guy to do it because he can manage the goofy with the serious. If you see From Parts Unknown,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's vampires, but it's done with this like I don't know, this sheen that it doesn't feel like a straight horror.
Yeah.
It's just fun, all right? It's vampires. We all know they're dangerous and this and that, but it's done in such a fun way. He has a lot of cool Western books out there too. So I knew he was the right guy to tap for the vibe I was going for.
Kicking
It's
that
an
butt.
exclusive, so go for it.
I'll take it. 100. I love exclusives. I used
Nice.
to have a thing a while back called spoiler alert, where the creators would just spoil something that was upcoming or whatever, and I kind
Right.
of kind of fell off by the wayside back in 2018 or whatever.
Fair enough.
But for the creator that is watching or listening this particular interview or your past interviews on Two Geeks Talking, who wants to go from I printed a comic once to I have a pipeline and books in shops, what's one non-obvious habit or mindset shift that changed everything for you?
You have to be comfortable with investing in yourself. I mean that in the most literal sense. It's you have to put your money where your mouth is. Again, literally. You will not see a return on your investment right away. If you want to do this and you want to have a line of books that are coming out, that means you are sitting on potential money, potential income that you don't know if or when it is coming. So that means right now I have a lot riding on this going well. I'm very comfortable with it. I made sure I was in a position that I'm not, going to lose the house because I did this. But you have to be willing to know that you trust yourself, that people will support you if you do come out with work and you have an audience that is eager and willing to see all the things that you're putting out there. And it's a slow build, right? Like you're not going to do this overnight. Understand that if you want to take that next level, you need to take it seriously. And the way you take it seriously is by literally putting money down on the table and betting on yourself and saying, I think I'll be a success. And because of that, I'm going to, like I mentioned it off the top, I have 4 projects in production and I have 4 projects that were starting up. So that's 8 in total. I have 8 different artists, plus colorists, plus letters, plus. I have contracts with third party fulfillers. I have contracts with printers and now with a publisher. And they all have an expectation of me. Also, they will eventually expect money from me, right? A lot of these artists have been paid already. Some are waiting for payment. It's knowing that I know that I'll get this money back eventually, but in the meantime, there's a lot of risk, and it's a big bet on myself and my ability to make sure that this all sees itself through to the end, to the point that hopefully all that money comes back and then some. Yeah, it's really about if you're going to take it seriously, you have to be a serious person. You have to be willing to invest in yourself and invest in the projects that you're working on. And it's no small feat. It can be scary, it can be concerning, but it's the reality of it. Nobody does this for free, right? So you can't expect people to give you money for your books if you're not willing to put money on yourself. Yeah. It's a callous reality. But it's the truth, right? It's something that I feel like not enough people say. Like it costs money to do this, right? Like you're not gonna get an artist who's gonna do it for future profit. It's like, no, you gotta pay them. Like if you want a professional, they're doing this as a career, you gotta pay them.
Once you get to a certain extent or a certain point in your career, it stops being a hobby and it becomes your profession. And I think that's the hardest mind shift as well too, because you get a lot of people that aren't in the industry that are saying, oh, how's that hobby going? How's your writing hobby going? Or how's your art hobby going? How's your podcasting hobby going? It's like, no, no, this is a business. It's not making money just yet, but it's getting towards that level. I see the future. I see how this is going, and you're the same way with what you've created. You wouldn't create eight separate books, work with as many artists and letterers and people that you do without, like you said, putting time into yourself. And it's been a huge success. So I say keep going until the wheels fall off.
That's the plan. But yes, thank you.
Well, Adriano, I do hate to say it, but that ends this particular episode of Two Geeks Talking. I want to thank you so much for being back on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me again. Hopefully we'll get to do this again soon. Maybe not 2 years from now, but sooner.
That's my lie, but okay, I'll take it. For those that want to support you, of course, your books and everything else that you are going to have upcoming, whether it's Kickstarter, whether it's through Pesto Comics, how can we help you get that financial success you want?
Yeah, go find me at pestocomics.com. From there, you can find all the socials that we were talking about. I'm everywhere. I'm trying to be everywhere on socials. But the easiest place to find me, pestocomics.com. That'll tell you both what's coming out in the direct market and what's available on crowdfunding. So if you're the type of person that has no interest in Kickstarter, that's okay. We got you. We'll be in stores. And if you want the things right away, you want to know exactly what we're doing and all the cool little exclusives and the very low print run things, that's the crowdfunding track for you. And you can find exactly that there. All pestocomics.com. Very easy to find all of it.
Is there a code or something they can do to ask the local comic book stores or whatever?
There is yeah, so you can find it both in the Lunar catalog and the Universal catalog. The codes I can certainly share with you. To read them out, what might be a bit arduous.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
It's like PRA 001, blah blah blah.
We'll put it in the show notes. How about
Right on.
that?
But yeah, if you tell your store, if they're using Universal or Lunar, March 30th FOC, they'll find From Parts Unknown very easily.
Awesome. I love it. That's great. Well, like I said, that ends this particular episode of Two Geeks Talking. Of course, find this interview and Adriano's past interview on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TGT Media. The podcast, search Two Geeks Talking. That's TWO Geeks Talking, wherever you get your podcasts. And I've been doing this for 18 years now. It'll be 19 this coming August. So like, subscribe, share this interview and past interviews that may tickle your fancy. And I just want to say thank you all for attending Two Geeks Talking over the years. But as I say every week, everyone has a story to tell. It's up to me to help bring that out. Thanks for listening and watching on Two Geeks Talking.